What's up guys, it's Ed from TechSource and welcome to Setup Wars episode 140 Potato Edition, where people around the world submit their crappy setups just to be on this episode. And as always, please don't take anything I say in this video seriously because it is done for entertainment purposes. It's not a serious video. And of course, the person with the worst setup will receive $100, and that is up to you guys to vote in the comment section. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, let the Setup Wars begin. If Harry Potter had a setup, it would look something like this, because this guy has his setup inside of a closet under his stairs. Or at least I think it's under his stairs, judging by the slant. Christian is currently working in a supermarket until he starts police school, so right now he's living with his girlfriend, and this is the setup he uses for competitive gaming like CSGO, League of Legends, and Hearthstone. He also does some editing for his YouTube channel. So he's using a 24-inch gaming monitor from Asus, and he's also got the Corsair K40 RGB keyboard and the M65 RGB mouse. What's interesting is that Christian is using half of an extended mouse pad just so he can cover the hole that he drilled for his keyboard. I've never seen that before. For audio, he's got two headsets, the SteelSeries Siberia 200s and the Marshall Major 2 headphones, along with a Trust Amida microphone that's hooked up to his IKEA desk, which by the way is the perfect size to fit inside this tiny closet. Cables are managed pretty well, although I would use a cable sleeve to hide the cables running down one of the legs. The PC powering this has an i5-6400 and a GTX 970. Honestly, this isn't the worst setup I've seen, but I decided to put it in this worst setup edition to give him a chance at winning $100, and because this is probably the worst place to build a setup in. I mean, there is hardly any space to move around, which is the worst nightmare for anyone with claustrophobia, but mostly because it has no ventilation. All the heat from the PC and the monitor and even his body is going to rise, and since there is no exhaust, it's just going to float around, making everything warmer and warmer, unless it's always cold where you live. Actually, I just checked the weather and apparently it's freezing cold in Denmark. Never mind what I just said. Thank you, Christian, for entering. Next up is Hussein, coming all the way from Egypt, and his setup from gaming and productivity. He's rocking a 19-inch monitor from Fujitsu and a budget keyboard and mouse with a set of budget speakers from Highlink. However, he does have a pair of Bluetooth headphones as well. Everything seems to be tidy up here, but underneath the setup is a completely different story. There's a bunch of cables that remain unattended. Some Velcro straps would help keep most of the PC wires grouped up together, and a cable box to hide the power strip instead of mounting it against the back like that. The PC itself is pretty outdated, rocking a GT 710 and a dual-core CPU, but the most disappointing thing about this submission is that he didn't watch my Alienware R7 video or my setup montage episode 8. Usually there's a red bar near the bottom, but there isn't any on his videos, so. I mean, it's not the fanciest setup, but it's definitely a potato setup. It seems like you got a cozy room as well. I really like how you kept everything so organized, but I have to ask you this. Why on earth do you have a toilet paper next to your bed? Do you have a toilet in your bedroom? Because usually they put toilet paper in bathrooms. I'm just trying to give you a hard time. I'm actually Middle Eastern myself, and we put stuff in the weirdest places possible. Back then, in summer times, we used to put our underwear in the freezer because we would have no air conditioning and it would get really, really hot. So yeah, fun times. But anyways, with that said, thank you, Hussein, for entering. Mylin is next up from South Africa, and his ghetto setup for gaming, watching anime, and the occasional FAP session. So apparently Mylin's friend, Idris, I think that's how you pronounce it, I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name by the way, took pictures of his friend's setup and then submitted it without him knowing, and both of them watch Setup Wars, so it'd be interesting to see his reaction watching my show all of a sudden. And by the way, Mylin, if you're watching, congratulations, your setup made it to the show, because it sucks. He's got a 20-inch monitor with the Alienware keyboard and the Razer Naga Hex mouse. But the most interesting part about this setup is that it's built at the edge of his bunk bed. I swear, these setup locations are getting more interesting by the episode. But look how much space he has for his mouse. There is no way you can game like that, unless you're playing Minecraft, of course. The only audio source I see are those wireless Sony headphones sitting on top of his PC, which is from Alienware. Already a disgrace, and it actually has decent specs, but Jesus Lord, when is the last time you cleaned inside this PC? It's looking like a desert storm hit your PC. I bet you that's the first time you've opened the side panel just to take pictures for Setup Wars. Looks like the storm hit your cable management as well, good lord. There are only 2 things I recommend for your setup, some Lysol and an air duster. I can also see that you decorated your entire room with posters of anime. That's definitely something to attract the ladies into your dorm. Excellent, excellent taste. Anyways, thank you Idris for submitting your friend's setup and good luck. Matthias is up next from Ecuador, and this is the setup he uses for gaming and some editing. It looks like his setup is on a tiny nightstand and he's using 2 pillows as his chair. Really? I don't even know where this is. It could be his living room or bedroom. I mean, it's hard to tell, but wherever it is, this is not the ideal setup. I mean, I don't know how anyone can sit and game like this, let alone edit a video. My back would be killing me after just an hour. He doesn't have any headphones, so it looks like he's using those foldable speakers, and he has some other stuff lying around like a VR headset, drone, and an empty pill bottle. Actually, it's not really empty, and I don't know what's going on underneath your setup, but there's one thing that's certain: you need to vacuum the floor, my dude. I also see a bunch of stuff just laying around. I mean, shelves go as low as $20 and it will really clean up everything around you. Here's one that I recommend. I'll drop a link below. Please pick one up. After all, a clean setup starts with a clean area. I mean, where have you ever seen a dope setup with a bunch of mess around it? It just doesn't exist. The PC power in the setup isn't half bad. That's actually the only good thing about this setup, and it's got a 7600K and a GTX 1060. Wow. I mean, if you have the budget to buy a PC like that, why does your setup look like this? I smell something fishy, and it ain't coming from that dying plant. Regardless, thank you for taking your time to submit your setup, Matthias, and good luck. Last but not least, we have Sahir coming from Pakistan and his creative setup that's used for gaming, editing, and socializing. What? I don't know if this is creative or just sad, but if you haven't noticed by now, he is using a set of speakers as his desk. The 2 subwoofers are the actual tabletop, and he's using the other 2 tweakers as the front legs and 2 boxes near the back as the support legs. I actually take back what I said earlier. This is very creative. He was like, I'm not gonna let not having a desk stop me from having a setup. So he grabbed his dad's old speakers and he went to work. He even used the legs on the speakers to hold his earphone cables. It's actually starting to make sense now because he is going to school for engineering. At least that's what he says in the notes. The rear speaker is holding up his monitor and PC, while the front speaker is supporting the keyboard, mouse, and the smartphone. The PC itself doesn't actually have a GPU, and it doesn't even have a PCI slot, so it's actually using the integrated graphics chip on the AMD CPU. So when he said that he used this setup for gaming, I'm actually curious, what type of gaming? Are you talking about Minesweeper? But you know what, I gotta give props to Sahir for working on his cables. As bad as this setup is, he actually cares enough to zip tie the cables together and keep everything neat and tidy. This has to be one of the cleanest, worst setups I've ever seen on the show. And that pretty much wraps up this episode of Setup Wars. Make sure you guys drop your comments down below and vote on who you think has the worst setup, because that person's gonna take home $100 in cash. I'll be announcing the winners on my Twitter account. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, I will see you very soon.